to me, the reason why I can't fathom buying Jason Dominguez is like, when is that guy going to be in the majors?
Welcome, everybody, to Dinging Corners, a baseball podcast powered by SlabStox. I'm your host, Nate, and today we are taking things a little bit differently. In the future, we are going to be doing a little bit of baseball recap and an interview. Today's interview ran a little bit long, and in the interest of not making it an hour-plus podcast, we are just doing an interview today. I interviewed Lou Janeau from VaynerMedia. And he is an avid Pokemon and baseball card collector. And so we talked a little bit about Pokemon. We talked a lot about baseball, different types of investing strategies and stuff like that. So I hope you all tune in and listen and enjoy. It should be a good way to learn different people's opinions on the card market outside of my own. So I hope you all enjoy and listen in to Lou. Welcome, everybody, to our interview today with Lou Janeau. He is a podcaster for Card Talk Pod, and also a avid Pokemon and baseball card collector. I'm sure you've seen him on our channel before. He's been on a couple times, I believe. Aaron's been on his Card Talk Pod with him and Card Collector 2, and Tyler, who works at VaynerMedia, along with Lou. Lou, thank you for joining us today at Dinging Corners. Excited to talk baseball with you.
Hell yeah.
So,
it's a great day. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I have been on your platform before. I was in the best episode of Slab Wars ever recorded at the National last year.
That's true.
People don't talk about that enough.
Good Slab War episodes, but Lou took the cake.
It's a fact.
That is a fact. That is a straight fact. So if you haven't seen that, you're watching this video right now and you haven't seen that, look up, go to SlabStox on YouTube, look up Slab Wars at the National, and you will find Lou on there. It is a great time. You get to really see Lou's personality shine through a little bit. So anyways, Lou, why don't you, for those of us that have not watched you on one of SlabStox videos before, or haven't seen any of Gary V's videos from VaynerMedia with you in them, why don't you give us a little background about yourself and your collecting?
Yeah. So my name is Lou Janeau. Like Nate was saying, I work as one of Gary Vaynerchuk's assistants. And as part of that work, he and I have known each other for a long time. And back in 2003, one of the first things I ever remember doing with Gary was Gary, my dad, AJ, his brother, and Brandon Warnicki, he works at Wine Library, is one of Gary's closest friends. We were hunting for LeBrons back in the day. So that's like one of my earliest memories is card collecting with Gary. So back in 2017, I want to say, or maybe 2018, I can't remember at this point, but he went to the National in Cleveland and came back and was like, I'm all in on this. Like, I'm obsessed with this. Like, do you want to do this with me, kind of thing? So I was helping him buy cards. I was learning about the marketplace. It was a much different place in 2018, 17 than it is today, obviously. But so that's kind of what I've been spending a lot of my time on in the last couple of years. And that's now led to me rediscovering my love for the hobby, rediscovering my love for collecting. And I now also work on a podcast called Card Talk Pod. I host that with Ryan, Card Collector 2, and Tyler Schmidt. And pretty much every week we just kind of mess around and talk about cards, talk about what's happening in the marketplace, talk about, how we see things falling day to day. And then we have some cool interviews as well, including Aaron. We actually have to get you on soon to talk baseball because there's not nearly enough baseball talk on Card Talk for me personally. I talk about baseball all day long.
Oh, me too.
Yes. So we're going to figure that out. I agree. We're going to figure that out. So I do Card Talk. And then I do my own card stuff as well. Now, the funny Gary will tell you that he tried to convince me to buy LeBron's for $1,000 and I said no. And he tried to convince me to buy Luka's for $35 and $50. And I said no both times because I'm scared like that. And that's kind of how I always was. I didn't buy a single card of my own until, that's not true. I bought a couple of things randomly, but my first real foray here was actually 2 or 3 weeks before COVID. I bought a couple Lukas for $250 each. So that was my initial entry into the card world on my own side this time around. So yeah, just loving the whole thing. It's getting crazier and crazier by the day, and happy to be involved.
Yeah, A couple points that Lou brought up here. Number one, I feel your pain on the not getting involved, because for years I would give Aaron advice on baseball players, and he'd make thousands and thousands of dollars a summer, and I would make nothing.
Yeah.
And then also Aaron was like, "Hey, you got to get into this soccer card market." I was like, "I ain't buying soccer, dude. I don't care about soccer. I'm not buying soccer." And then I missed the boat on Mbappe, or Mbappe, however you say his name.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, "Dude, you should be buying these 2014 Prism first year Ronaldo's and Messi's when they're like $4 a piece." And I was going to do that. I just never got around to it because I'd already, missed
happens.
it. And then I was like, "Oh, I should do this," and I just never did it. So I feel your pain on missing the boat on the LeBrons and the Lucas. The second thing you brought up, which is interesting, is you said 2017, 2018, not the same as today. And if you are a new collector, back in you might not understand what he's saying. And for an example, Lou, I imagine you would also know, confirm this, is that like back in 2017, 2018, you could get a Lamar Jackson Prism rookie base card for $2, $1.
I can confirm that they were being purchased for $4 because I was looking back at some of our stuff recently.
Okay, so $4 a pop for a Lamar Jackson base card.
Ungraded.
Nowadays, you go and you look for guys that are good but haven't really proven anything. You're talking Josh Allen, you're talking Sam Darnold, guys like that, and you're talking $50, $60 a base card, ungraded, $400, $500 for PSA 10s. Kyler Murray, who was really good last year, obviously, but is like $600, $700 a PSA 10 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I imagine that this next wave of players that come out, Jordan Love, as a Packer fan, I'm excited about Jordan Love just because he's young and new. But you're not going to be able to get into him cheap. He's not going to play for 3 years, and I bet his Prism base cards are going to come out at $30 a pop.
That feels low, honestly, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it probably is low, but just like 2 years ago, you could get Lamar Jacksons for dirt cheap. Now you can't get a quarterback that's not going to start for 3 years for probably $30.
You can't get second-year Patrick Mahomes. A second-year Patrick Mahomes card I was paying 12x $4 for. Ungraded. And I was fired up about it. So me and my dad, back in the day, we used to go, my dad lived in, this is irrelevant for anyone who's not from Bergen County, New Jersey, but me and my dad used to live in Pagoda, New Jersey, and there's a little card shop over there, and we used to go there back in the day. A couple months ago, actually right before COVID, I went in there to buy some stuff, like some wax. Me and my dad were opening wax. Actually, I bought a box of 2018 Heritage baseball there, high number. So I was walking around that store that day, and I'm looking, and I'm thinking about Luka, and I'm like, this is kind of, because there was like a little tinge of the second year stuff happening then, and he must have had 50 2019 Lukas, and they were like $3 to $4 a pop, and I'm like, I should just buy these. Like, why would I not? Like, Luka is Luka. Like, what am I doing? And I just didn't, because I was just being cheap, kind of.
I mean,
I regret that immensely.
Tough to put down like $90 to $100, right?
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
So I understand that. Now you are a Pokemon guy first or a baseball guy first for cards?
For like what percent do I own, or like where do I see my interest levels?
Interest levels, enjoyment, that type of thing.
I care about Pokemon cards an uncomfortable amount. Like, it's honestly, I think about Pokemon cards more than I think about like, what am I gonna like eat today? You know what I mean? Like I care about Pokemon cards a lot. Like what every day I'm like, what's going on with this? I actually made a deal with someone today for some like sneaky under the radar cards that I'm excited about. I'm going to talk about it on Card Talk, but yeah, like Pokemon to me is the closest thing. I think the reason why I'm so attracted to it from a buying standpoint, to me, it's the closest thing to what 2018 basketball felt like, in terms of you and I are different because we've been around it a little bit now. You can kind of feel it when it's coming, Mm-hmm. I could feel it with underpriced. So that's where I spend a lot of my time.
I like it. I'm a little salty though because 5-year-old Nathan back in 1999 got his Pokemon cards thrown away.
Yeah, it'd be like that.
So I don't know what was in there, and they're probably not in good condition because none of my football cards or basketball cards from back then, baseball cards were in good condition. But still, the idea that maybe I had decent cards and they were just tossed kills me inside.
Yeah, and it's also like I talk to a lot of people about this now with Pokemon. They're like, I had so much stuff, blah blah, and I'm like, cool. Like realistically, what was happening was you were trading them for like Gogurt at the lunch table, and like you were playing with them, and they're in trash condition anyway. So like ultimately, the only thing that matters with these cards that you had fun with them at the time. That's truly the big point. Like I found all my old Pokemon cards, and they're all beat up, and I'm like, you want to know why? Because I had fun with those back in the day, and that's all that matters, you know. So it's a bummer, but it's okay.
Yeah. And, you know, the list goes on. I mean, old video games, if nobody knows the video game market, if you have PS1 games, I knew PS1 games were valuable. And yet when my family moved, I had a bin of PS2 games and some PS1 games mixed in, and I accidentally gave the PS1 games away with the PS2 games. And there was one game in there called Misadventures of Tron, which is a spin-off from Mega Man Legends. She's the evil woman in Mega Man Legends.
Okay.
It's not really important to the story. It's just a very rare game.
Yeah.
And I only had the disc and not the case. And the case was complete with the booklet and the demo disc to Mega Man Legends 2. If you had the disc and the case and the demo disc, it's like $300. With just the disc, I got like 90, which is still really good.
That's still crazy. Like the Pokemon games, the sealed graded Pokemon games sell for like thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
It's bananas.
If we had just known that.
Yeah, if only we had a time machine that could have given us the keys to life, we would have been in such better position.
So now I know like PlayStation 3 video games and Xbox games will be overproduced, but I don't throw those things away anymore. I will just keep them in a bin forever and see what happens.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I used to make fun of my dad and my mom and my stepdad because they were like hoarders, kind of.
Yeah.
And now I understand because you just said that. Like we both know those games are not going to be worth anything. But I'm like, I know why he's going to hold on to them forever, and that's how hoarding happens.
Yep. But there's only a select few things I will hoard. I do not like clutter, and I do not want a bunch of stuff. But
yeah, you say that until your brewer's clock behind you is worth $150 one day, and you're like, damn it! And then you're keeping every clock you find.
Fair.
You know?
Yep. All right, Lou, well, let's get into the main portion of Dinging Corners. Obviously, everyone that watches Dinging Corners is watching for baseball. And I give some baseball takes. Some of them are good. Occasionally, Pete Alonso takes are bad. And everywhere in between. But most people know what I'm looking for when I'm talking about baseball players, right?
Yep.
I want a good walk rate. If he has a good walk rate, I don't care about the strikeout rate as much. But if he has a really high strikeout rate, I want power with it. I prefer guys that have walk rates and, you know, base running and defense to guys with just good walk rates and power and nothing else. So I will prefer a guy like a Ronald Acuna and a Fernando Tatis to a guy like Juan Soto, even though Juan Soto's bat is by far the best of the group. It's just one of those things where I think the added bonus from the defense and the base running is the all-around player will make a better value play moving forward. I could be wrong. You know, bats do sell in the hobby, and Juan Soto has the best bat, right? And people know kind of what I'm looking for with pitchers. You get added velocity, you know, high strikeout rates, the whole very generic. If you add a new pitch and it helps you get both sides of the plate out, that excites me, that type of stuff. But what I'm looking for in these interviews is trying to get other people's takes on where they go with their card investing so that people that are watching this video have more than just my ideas. Because, well, not to brag, but I have been decently right quite a bit. Aaron can attest to that. That's why he signed me on and, you know, gave me this job, was because of how right I had been when making him money on cards. and usually do pretty good. But that doesn't mean I'm always going to be correct. And so the easiest way to get a good knowledge base and to try to do the best is to get a bunch of different knowledge from a bunch of different people, and then use all that to make your own investment decisions. So that's why we brought you on today. I know you love baseball, and so we can talk a little bit, talk about baseball in general, but then also want to get your thoughts on what you are looking for in investment cards, so to speak.
Cool.
So I guess we'll just jump right in and say, if what do you just talked about having bought a bunch of Juan Sotos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before we jumped on this podcast. And so like a guy like Juan Soto, what are you looking at specifically, or is it him specifically, or are you also investing in other Ronald Acuna, Fernando Tatis, Luis Roberts type of guys?
Yeah. So I think it varies. So it varies. We talk about this on Card Talk a lot. There's a big difference between what happens with a major league, how I think about major league investing versus minor league investing. Minor league investing is much more of an analytical, like you're saying, like you're thinking about what's their hit walk, what's the blah, 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 like where are they playing? Do they hit a lot of home runs because they're in the Pacific League or whatever? You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff I think about. To me, a lot of that stuff, a lot of those things are already baked in my mind because I play so much. I play this ridiculous fantasy baseball league, and all I do is look at these prospects all day long. So I kind of have a good feel for like this guy's numbers are good, but they're kind of inflated, and I could see how this guy's playing. But to me, the thing I think about the most with minor league is a path to the majors. There's a lot of good prospects that get stuck in the minors because they're position blocked. Like Brendan Rodgers has been a really highly ranked prospect for a number of years now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were buying a lot of Brendan Rodgers for a long time, expecting him to become this elite player in Major League Baseball, which he still might become. Kyle Tucker is an example of a guy who is down in the minors for a while and is now finally getting a shot and is succeeding.
Yep. Clint Frazier, another one.
Clint Frazier's another one. Let's see if he actually sticks, but he's another one for sure. But to me, my worst nightmare is getting stuck with a guy who is position blocked or some other reason can't get to the majors. Forrest Whitley's another example. I'm using two Astros because they're in my mind the most, but Whitley's another example of a guy who just can't seem to get to the majors no matter how hard he tries. So I think a lot about position. I think a lot about when can this guy really get to the majors? Can he get to the majors in the next 2 to 3 years? Cool. I want to start buying some stuff. Otherwise, like, I just think I can better use the money elsewhere. Like, to me, the reason why I can't fathom buying Jason Dominguez is like, when is that guy going to be in the majors?
Yeah, no one knows. We don't even know. We don't even know if he's good.
We have no idea if he's any good. He's 17 years old. He's a mammoth of a human. He's an alien. But like, can he play Major League Baseball? Cool. Like, I'm the biggest fan of like the international kids. Like, I love all that stuff. Like, cool, you were awesome in DR, but like now you're playing against guys who are professionals, who are like ready to go major league prospects. You know what I mean? Yep. And it's a much different animal. And when those cards cost $100 for raw cards, I just can't fathom it.
Noelvi Marte, another guy.
Noelvi Marte is another guy.
Hasn't played in the stateside and yet is $120 a base auto.
Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And it's like, I'm willing to miss the boat. The thing I always say is I'm willing to miss the boat. I'm okay with missing out on Jason Dominguez becoming $1,000 base card because I didn't buy it at 100, because I think I can find some guy who's $20 that can become, $75, but I could buy 5 of them. And I'm feeling pretty good about that because it's a lower risk to me. All those things. I think about risk management. I think about path to the majors. That's minor league stuff. Major league stuff, again, I think about playing time a lot and I think about popularity. The thing that drives card prices is popularity. That is Instagram clips, that is Twitter, that is Sports Center, things like that. Juan Soto is an electric factory. He's a walking electric factory. Same thing with Tatis. The reason they keep showing those home run dances when they get in the dugout and how all the Padres are doing that little like dance when they get in the dugout is because it's funny and it's cool. Mm-hmm. And kids see that and people see that and are like, I like that guy. He's popular. I'm going to buy that card.
Yep.
So I think when you get to the majors, of course, you have to look at stats and you have to understand that a guy's not an absolute bum like Joey Gallo. I'm sure a lot of people lost a lot of money on Joey Gallo because they're buying a bunch of cards. But when you get to the level of, and I also don't, when it comes to the major stuff, I don't mess around too much. I think the weirdest thing I've done in baseball is buy like Miguel Andujar. Like I bought a bunch of Miguel Andujar for like $5 raw cards.
Cheap investment.
Yeah, like
and
ultimately,
he could still pop.
yeah. I'm not so sure at this point. It's making me a little nervous, but $5, I bought, like 10 cards, something like that for $5 each. I'm okay. I'm going to be okay on that. I stick with Acuna, Tatis, Soto, who's another guy? Like Lindor is a guy I think about a lot. And then for me, the other thing is I don't do pitchers at all. I know you like pitchers. I can't do it.
I don't do MLB rookie pitchers. Only
I don't do pitchers in the minors either.
Shame.
I get it. Like I could see it. To me, like how much is a Max Scherzer rookie card PSA 10?
Oh yeah, I don't have those numbers off the top of my head.
It's probably not as much as we
they're
think.
Not a lot. I know when I was going through with the website stuff we've got coming out, I've been looking at a lot of cards and deciding some things without giving too much away. And there's a lot of times where I was like, should I throw this pitcher's rookie card in here? And then I look at like a Clayton Kershaw or Max Scherzer, and I said, probably not. What's the likelihood that he hits that outcome?
Max Scherzer, PSA 10, 2008 Topps update, $205. Fernando Tatis, 2019 Topps Series 2, $300.
Yeah.
The end. Like the end. In a world where you're trying to buy cards and sell them for more money, I can't figure out a way to buy Chris Paddock. Like I'm just not going to do it.
No,
as much as I think Chris Paddock is, I'm using Chris Paddock as the example, but like as much as I'm thinking of, Tristan McKenzie or Forrest Whitley or who, like all these guys, I just can't when I know I can use that money on hitters, and that's where all the interest goes in the end anyway.
I will say I would never buy MLB rookies, Topps update, Topps Series 1, Series 2 pitchers. Just wouldn't do it. If you get them, you store them in a box, you see what happens if you're ripping. But buying, I would not. As for Bowman Chrome rookies, I do think it is a good way for people that don't have a ton of money to get into the market, because there's, nowadays, you just said it, $275, $300 for Fernando Tatis rookie. How do people that don't have $300 to drop per card and don't want to grab, very, very high risk lottery ticket guys, how do they get into the market and make some money? I think Bowman Chrome pitchers are the perfect example. A couple years ago, Nate Pearson was a $10 Bowman Chrome auto. I told everyone who would listen to buy them.
I remember that actually for some reason.
Most people didn't because they don't like pitchers. Well, now Nate Pearson is a $75 Bowman Chrome auto. And that's just one way you can get a solid prospect for $10. And if they do well, obviously there's risk. There's huge risk with every pitcher that ever pitches a baseball, because it's just not natural on the elbow, not natural on the shoulder. But that's kind of factored in. If there wasn't that risk, you would see a top 5 pitching prospect go for the same price as a top 5 hitting prospect, most likely. But because that risk is factored in, I do think it's a good value play for people that just don't have the money to spend. But that being said, I will agree with you on the Topps rookies. No chance I'd ever buy a Chris Paddock or a AJ Puck or a Dustin May.
Yeah. So the Nate Pearson Bowman Chrome autos, those were $10 raw or graded?
$10 raw.
Yeah. So Tatis Topps Series 2 before the season started was like, I don't know, $9, $10. Like they're only 35. Like they're 50 now, but obviously because he's popped, right? Like the cards were cheap raw. They're available.
Yeah.
Like tell me if I'm wrong. I just feel like you have a higher upside buying raw. So like even now, raw Sotos for $40 makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, I guess
it's a more expensive card and all that stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm more comfortable. Like it feels like a $50 raw of Tatis, unless he becomes the next Mike Trout, that's probably the top end of the range almost.
I disagree.
Right? But maybe not, because the market's changing right before our very eyes every single day.
Every single day, it's different. People thought 35 was a lot.
Yeah. That being said, you can't buy Tatis rookies right away, but you can buy Nate Pearson Bowman Chrome Autos right when he comes out in the minors, and it's way easier to be productive through the minors if you're a good pitching prospect than it is once you hit the majors.
That's
And
fair.
likewise with hitting.
What
And
about Bowman
so
paper prospects?
what?
Like paper prospect cards. Like I think about like I remember a year and a half ago, like my favorite thing to think about was like minor league prospects that were you can get them under $1 each. Like you buy 100, my dad actually is a great example of this. He bought 150 Tatis paper rookies for like 75 cents each. I mean, obviously that's a big investment, and you can of course scale it down and might change prices. But like you put $50 into a bunch of those, like those cards are like $20 each now. Like that's a real return, And that was a year and a half ago he bought those.
Yep. So yeah, I guess either way you look at it, you don't have to go the Topps rookies. You can go the paper Wander Franco if you want. If you don't want to buy the regular Wander Franco and stuff like that, and I'm sure your local card shop might just have those in droves because people just gave back their paper.
Banging, I apologize. People are moving above me, I think, and it's like really loud. Sorry.
Oh, I can't hear it.
Oh, great.
I do want to move back to your minor league if I can draw on my memory to remember what I wanted to say here. Back to your minor league takes. This is going to be bad. This is going to be bad podcasting if I can't access these numbers.
I was talking about playing time, path to the majors.
Oh, yeah. So playing time, path to the majors. It's funny you bring that up because two players that are doing really, really well right now are Ramon Laureano and Teoscar Hernandez, who are both former Astros, but the Astros are so stinking deep that they just don't have room for everybody. So they gave them away in minor trades. And there you are. Now the Astros would probably love to have them, but at the same time, you just can't play everybody. And some guys take multiple years to develop. And Teoscar Hernandez is probably like 27 now. He's finally having like his first really good year.
Yeah.
And so it's a huge thing. Huge thing is playing time when you're looking at minor league cards. It's the, do I want to buy, I don't know, Luis Urias if the Padres have, now Luis Urias is obviously Brewer, but the Padres have Fernando Tatis and they just signed Manny Machado. Well, should I be buying Luis Urias? Probably not. Now Luis Urias gets traded and he becomes a much more ideal target because he can play shortstop because Orlando Arcia sucks, right? And so path to the majors is a huge thing, and a huge thing that I don't think people think about enough when looking at minor league rookies is that you want to go through, or minor league Bowman firsts, is that you want to go through and you want to look at a player's situation and see, look at the team. Who do you get drafted by? Oh, he's a pitcher, but he got drafted by the
Indians.
That's a great
deal. That guy's not coming up for a while, I don't think.
No, but they're really good at developing pitchers, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Rays are really good at developing pitchers. But then you are a pitcher and you get drafted by the Chicago Cubs. When's the last time the Cubs have had a good pitcher, their own pitching prospect? Yep. Right? It's been years. They drafted a ton of hitters. Now, some of that is because they drafted a bunch of hitters high up and never drafted pitchers high up. And they just paid money for pitchers. But also some of that is because they're probably just bad at developing pitchers. And so you want to look at those situations for those of you that are trying to get into the minor league game is to look at the situations that the player is in. If a hitter is drafted by the Angels nowadays, the Angels have been really good at developing hitters lately. That's a good thing.
But
what? Yeah, the team is terrible. The team is atrocious. But they've been really good at developing hitters. 9-21. It's just Mike Trout needs to.
No matter what happens, no matter who they get, every year, all I hear about is the Angels. And then you know what happens? They're not as good as everyone said they were going to be.
Nope.
Even Joe Adell. I'm obsessed with Joe Adell. This guy can't get it going. It's so upsetting. I want that guy to be good so bad.
Yeah, it's rough. But they've been good. The Dodgers. Last year, I was really excited about Josiah Gray because he moved from the Reds, who in their own right are good at developing pitchers, at least developing them once they hit the majors. Mm-hmm. But he moves from the Reds to the Dodgers, who are unbelievable at getting everything they can out of every single prospect they get. And so Josiah Gray was a unmolded piece of clay, so to speak. He was a Division II guy who played in the field for most of the years, and then pitched his first year, junior year, gets drafted in the second round. Has barely had any time to develop bad habits, let alone good ones. So all of a sudden, you can just take him, you can just train him. Now he's the Dodgers' like third ranked prospect, second ranked prospect, and he's absolutely unbelievable. And you got to look at that too. So playing time and situation are a big thing, and then also, like you said, you're looking at park factors and stuff. Huge for the minor leagues. And then another thing I'd like to bring up in correlation with that is that you don't. Now, I don't know where you fall on the spectrum, Lou, but you don't have to sell once they hit the majors. A lot of guys are like, I buy now, and once they hit the majors, I sell. Mm-hmm. That's a mistake in my mind, because a lot of guys could destroy A ball. You make a lot of money. They get up to AA and they suck, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think about selling guys till they're in the majors, to be honest with you, like for the most part.
Yeah. I think
people do that. They get promoted to like AA and they're like, I'm going to sell all my, Adley Rutschmans or whatever.
That's what I do.
Hang on a second. So if Adley Rutschman gets drafted today, right? Let's not use Adley Rutschman. Let's use
a lesser prospect, because there's definitely top prospects that I definitely believe in the entire way.
Nick Madrigal.
Okay.
Let's use Nick Madrigal. He's in single A, or he's in AA, right? He's probably at AA last year, if I had to guess. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yep. So he's in AA, and then now it's like, all right, we just heard Nick's getting promoted to AAA, and his cards went from his Bowman Chrome base goes from, $8 to $14. You're going to sell those cards at $14?
It depends on the prospect. So if he's a top five hitter like a Nick Madrigal, and I think AAA could actually boost his power numbers because he has no power numbers. But if he goes to a AAA, MLB uses the MLB baseball, and I think he can start hitting more home runs, then I wouldn't sell a guy like Nick Madrigal. But if I've got a fringe prospect, take a guy like Trent Grisham. Now, obviously, Trent Grisham is really, really good now for the Padres.
Yeah, but it's been a while.
But 2015, last year, he's like $8. He gets called up, or even less than that, gets called up to AA, is killing it. Cards might go up who knows how high, and then gets traded to the Padres this offseason. They're 25. Before he even plays this year, and I know he played last year in the majors, but before he even plays this year in the majors, I would be selling those cards. But most likely, I'd have been selling them once they got to $16. Just because some guys, if they're a pop-up prospect, Dylan Carlson too, I'd be selling him. If all of a sudden they have a pop-up prospect, which is just one good year after years of mediocrity, I do not believe in that guy long-term. I would just take my money.
I'm the guy who wants to sell on a debut. Like, so I know Joe Adell is getting promoted. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm selling Joe Adell cards, even though I like Joe Adell.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the peak of their popularity. Like, no one's going to be more aware of course, unless he pop and goes off and whatever. But like, to me, it feels like a pretty safe trajectory that like their promotion debut is a pretty big peak of their popularity, and in turn a peak of their awareness and card value.
I agree with that. I guess for me personally, it would be, how active are you on buying and selling and getting your cards listed? Because I'm atrocious at it. So there's been multiple times where I'm like, I should list that. I've missed the boat on listing it, and then I just hold on to it. So for me, it's easier to be like, all right, I've made some money, instead of waiting and then potentially forgetting or anything. Just take the money, reinvest, because there's always the next guy. You've learned this. I've learned this every single year without fail. Since cards probably began and people started investing in cards, there's always been the next guy.
Yeah, and that gets to something that we talk about a lot on the show. Like, two things actually. One is, don't overbuy, right? That's a thing. Like, I think a lot of people
get too much inventory in one guy.
They get too much inventory, not even on one guy. It could be on one guy, but it also could be like they hear me say Joe Adell right now, and then they go buy Joe Adell's, and they hear you talk about Nate Pearson, they go buy Nate Pearson's, and it's like they don't have any context on who those people are, really, and they're just buying it, and then they're waiting for a moment. Like, what is that moment even? Like, what is that? That's something we talk about a lot as well. This is the other part of it is, what's your exit strategy for a card? Because that varies person to person. Like me and you just had a very different POV on like when to sell cards, and it varies person to person. I was a guy who was holding on to everything forever because it was like whatever. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for what I feel like is the most valuable part of this person, or most valuable part of this person's career. Right now, I'm like, hey, I could take this. I spent $25 on this Joe Adele card. I could sell it for $50, and with that $50, I could buy XYZ, and I could take that $50 and maybe make that $50 $150 and so on and so forth, right? So like it varies person to person, and I think that's a big thing that a lot of people, especially newer folks, don't think about. When are you going to actually get rid of your cards?
They're like, oh, I can turn this into money later in the future. I'm buy. All of a sudden they spent $1,000.
Yeah, and they don't know what they don't know what to do. Like, who is Nate Pearson? They don't even know who Nate Pearson is.
Yeah. So I guess the best you can do in these situations is do your research before buying. I just saw Gary tweet out the 1:37 p.m. article that keeps getting reposted on Twitter about learning the market before jumping in. He tweets it out every couple of days, I'd say. But it's important. It's a good thing to tweet it out every couple of days because maybe somebody won't see his tweet every single time, and they're thinking about getting into cards. Well, they need to know that it's not just a magical thing where you buy and all of a sudden you guarantee yourself money later on.
Yeah, and it's also not like, oh, I bought this I don't know. I bought this card for $34. I graded it and it's $1,100 now. I have $1,100. No, you don't.
Nope.
You have a poker chip.
Still got to sell it.
You have a poker chip that's worth $1,100. That's different. And until you realize that profit, you've made nothing, and you need to act like you've made nothing.
Yeah.
You can't spend money you don't have yet. That's a big thing.
And a lot of people, people do that. They take their credit card. They're like, oh, I can spend $2,000, but I'll get $6,000, end of summer. But that credit card bill comes due and they don't have the money to pay it.
They either got to sell a card or they're in some deep stuff.
Yeah.
It's for the kids.
It's for the kids. Kids show. So if you learn anything from Lou, it's know your market, do your research, and then learn different strategies, because a lot of people have different strategies on when to buy, when to sell, what to buy, what to sell, what to grade, and just have a strategy when you're going into the game. Don't try to figure out your strategy on the fly. Maybe you want to double up on the card. Maybe you're willing to just take 25% profit or 50% profit. For me, I like to buy a lot of retail because Aaron and I don't buy cards anymore that we talk about. Mm-hmm. So how I combat that is by just buying retail or hobby boxes when they weren't like $5 bajillion per hobby box. And so I'd buy retail and I just store the cards. Take all my Bo Bichette's and all my Gavin Lux's and all my Aristides Aquinos and all my Keston Hiras and Nick Senzel's and just store them. And right now I have like 13 each of Kyle Lewis and Bo Bichette and Gavin Lux and Yordan Alvarez.
I didn't buy any Kyle Lewis. I feel very bad about that.
You should have done that. I had a moment in time where I was like, I kind of like Kyle Lewis. And I was looking at his cards, and there was somebody selling Dinged Corner, but a Independence Day out of 76 and a gold foil for $100 before the season started. $100. I guarantee right now the gold foil is probably like 70, 80 ungraded. And you're definitely getting more than $100 for the Independence Day, even though it has a Dinged Corner.
Yeah, and real quick, I know we're trying to wrap up. Like one other thing whenever I talk to anyone is like the FOMO aspect. I literally just did it myself and I caught myself. Don't be scared to miss out on something. I talked about it a little bit earlier, but like I'm not scared to miss the boat. Like it's okay. Like it's going to be fine. There's always going to be more, like you're saying, there's going to be more guys. Baseball's not ending tomorrow. Like there's going to be more prospects. There's going to be guys next year and so on and so forth. And also one other thing I thought about while you were talking, don't get caught up in prospect lists.
Nope.
I think people look at a prospect list and a lot of people bought a lot of Nolan Gorman because he was, the 30-something ranked prospect.
Yeah.
And I like Nolan Gorman, by the way, but like
when he shouldn't have been, probably.
when he shouldn't have been, but he had just gotten drafted. And what always happens is guys get overranked when they first get drafted. I think Spencer Torkelson's like a top 5 prospect right now. Like he might be really good, but like
He's first
come
base only.
on,
Yeah.
come on, and that dictates prices. Prospect lists, especially in the minor leagues, prospect lists have a big impact on prices of cards.
Especially MLB Pipeline, and I have a big gripe with MLB Pipeline because every year it seems like they get lazy, and there's just like the 7th, 8th, 9th picks in the draft always magically slot in like in the 50s.
I'm looking at it right now. I have MLB prospect list open right now. Spencer Torkelson's number 7. And by the way, these guys, I have all the belief in the world in these guys to be like great players. But like he's 7th, Bobby Witt's 11th, Andrew Vaughn 17th. Scrolling here. Like these guys are like so highly rated. Like I don't even know who Emerson Hancock is. Who is that?
I want to say he's an Indian, but I'm
okay.
also
It's a problem that the
sure
number
he's an Indian.
20, that the number 38 prospect, you don't know who he is, and you had the wrong team. That's weird for
Yeah.
someone like you who knows this stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
In my defense, with COVID and with no minor league baseball, my minor league baseball studying up on has gone to crap.
Sure, but either way, bro, he was the number 6 pick in the draft this year. How is he the number 38 prospect? I just don't see it. I don't see it.
Yeah. That's the other thing with COVID this year. I almost didn't see anything on the draft. I don't know.
Draft came and went. I have no idea who's the number 1 pick.
The draft just was kind of there and then just gone, and all of a sudden people were drafted. I'm like, actually, I haven't heard of half these guys because I didn't do any research beforehand.
Jason Dominguez's ETA is 2024. So people who are spending $100 on cards right now for Jason Dominguez, that guy's not going to be in the majors until I'm like 30 something years old. That's weird.
Yeah. That's money better spent elsewhere, probably.
100%.
Unless it comes up and destroys a ball, then you're about to watch those cards go wild.
And I'll be okay if those cards. I hope he's the best player in the history of baseball.
Yep, and that's the thing. It is okay to miss out because a quick story here. Me and a buddy went into the shop. We bought a box of Select Soccer, $80. Got destroyed. There was 2 boxes left in the shop. The other box had a Cristiano Ronaldo auto out of 20 in it. We were very upset. Well, what do you know? We put the cards in a box, set them onto the side. I go looking through them the other day. There's a Kevin De Bruyne base and a Marcus Rashford base in there. So your Mbappe's and your Jordan Sancho's and whatever, you know, those guys, they rise up. You feel like you missed the boat. Well, all of a sudden, that $80 we spent on that box is got back on just those 2 base cards because now these secondary cards are rising up. And
we were talking about that on the show recently as well. Is like wax is really interesting because you're basically betting on the whole class as opposed to just buying a lot of people bought a lot of Baker Mayfield and they didn't buy any Lamar.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep. It is very weird. Wax is very weird. That's why I like Top Series 1 this last year. I'd have bought all the Top Series 1 wax because the rookie class was just so deep.
Yeah, it was Jordan, Robert.
Well, Robert's Series 2, but Jordan,
Robert Series 2?
Lux,
my bad.
Bichette, Lewis, Aquino, even lesser guys like
tons of guys.
Isan Diaz, stuff like that. It's just like, you know, the top 3 are going to be the top 3, but if any of the other 3, 4 good players pop like Kyle Lewis did, all of a sudden that's huge. You buy a bunch of wax, you get a bunch of Kyle Lewis, 4 of your 15 PSA 10, and you probably have all of the money back you spent on all of the wax, and you still have all of your Bichettes and your Yardons and your Gavin Luxes.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, Lou, we've probably run a little bit long on this here interview. 45 minutes.
That's good, though.
I'm sure Aaron expected it to be like a 15-minute interview with a 15-minute lead in, but
Aaron can relax.
Yeah, Aaron can relax. Yeah. Aaron, if you're watching this while you're editing this, you can relax.
Relax.
So Lou, lastly, before we end, just give you a moment to shout out what you have going on. I know we talked about Card Talk Pod, but if you want to just tell people where they can go find it, listen to it, if it's on YouTube, the whole 9 yards, just say what you got going on and let people know.
Thank you. Yeah, and thank you again for having me. It was awesome. Always happy to talk baseball. So, Card Talk, we release every Wednesday audio on Apple and Spotify. Video comes out every Friday on YouTube. It's actually, YouTube is popping off, which I kind of should have expected, but it does really well. And obviously, I guess people like watching it. So thank you to anyone who has watched it so far. When you're bored with Dinging Corners, when you've rewatched that episode for the 4th time and you're looking for something new, hopefully you'll come check us out. Please leave us any comments. We love to check those out. Love to read, love to talk to people in the community, everything like that. So yeah, Card Talk at Card Talk Pod on Instagram as well.
Sweet. Well, thank you, Lou, for joining us. For everyone that's listening, please go check them out at Card Talk Pod on Instagram, at Card Talk Pod on YouTube and stuff. And I've watched a couple. It's always very enjoyable. 3 good personalities, which is nice. Sometimes you get a dry personality like myself, a little bit ugly to the eyes too. It's just a bad combination.
Nate, you and I get along.
Yeah,
I love your personality.
Very degrading towards myself sometimes, but
Me too. That's okay.
Yeah, that's how you got to, so that when other people try to, it doesn't affect you.
Yeah.
So, anyways, Lou, thank you for joining Dinging Corners. Thank you for being the first guest to talk baseball with me. We'll try to get more on here, and have a good rest of your day.
Later, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening to that interview I just did with Lou Janou from VaynerMedia. If you haven't done so yet while you're listening to this podcast, please go follow him at Card Flipping on Instagram, and also follow his new podcast he does with Card Collector 2, Ryan and Tyler Schmidt from VaynerMedia, Card Talk Pod. So you can follow their podcast on YouTube, subscribe there, and also on Instagram. They have an Instagram page at Card Talk Pod. So please go there and subscribe and give him a follow. So thank you, everyone, for listening in to today's episode of Dinging Corners, and I will be back again with you next week for some more Dinging Corners. Thank you, everyone.